welcome. I would like to welcome you to another episode of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. And if you do me a favor, please subscribe to every listening. Please subscribe to every watching. It definitely means a lot to me. This was probably one of the most exciting and eventful week ones in the NFL that we've seen in a while. From multiple games finishing under one or finishing within 3 points or more, a couple games finishing, we had a tie. This has been one of the most eventful and eye-opening week ones that we've ever seen. Now, again, you can't take a lot out of week one. You don't want to overreact, but there are some things that we should talk about. Now, I'm going to break down each game. I'm going to break down what we saw. Let's say that. Let's first start with the Saints and Falcons. One thing, so a theme in week one was a lot of teams didn't play their full rosters. Most teams don't play their full rosters in the preseason, and it showed. You saw it going back to Thursday night. You saw it with the Rams and the Bills. The Rams just didn't look prepared, didn't look ready. None of their starters played the preseason, so it didn't look cohesive. The same thing can be said for the Saints. Now, the Saints didn't play a lot of their starters for obvious reasons. I mean, Jameis Winston was recovering from an ACL injury. Of course, Michael Thomas and his injury history. So the offense looked like it got off to a slow start. Actually, it didn't look like. The offense got off to a slow start. The Falcons kind of jumped on them early. But because the Falcons aren't a good team, and you saw, as the game progressed, you saw Jameis Winston starting to get into it. Michael Thomas, I think he had 2 touchdowns. Chris Olave was good. It just, Jarvis Landry had a couple big catches. Taysom Hill, apparently they moved him to tight end. You just saw the wheels churning for the Saints. The defense is something that was a little question. I was shocked of how bad they looked until the end. So I do think, I'm not gonna take. Of course, you can't. There will be a little overreaction, but you try not to overreact to week one. But I do want to see what the Saints look like moving forward. I mean, you have the Bucs next week, and but the Saints did beat the Falcons 27-26. Will Lutz hit a game-winning field goal, yeah, and then the Atlanta Falcons kicker had a chance and he got blocked. So Saints won 27-26. One of the biggest or most anticipated games were the Browns against the Panthers due to, of course, Baker Mayfield playing his old team. And it went exactly how I thought it would go. Again, you don't know what you're going to get from Baker Mayfield. You never know what you're going to get from Baker Mayfield, and he didn't look good. Now, he didn't look good for about 40, until the end of close to the end of the fourth quarter. He did not look good at all. He had interceptions. He was late on throws. He didn't look good, and ultimately, the Browns did win 26-24, but that's one of the biggest reasons why the Browns were trying so hard to get a Deshaun Watson, because you don't know what you're going to get out of Baker Mayfield. And when you have a good team like the Browns have, I mean, Myles Garrett was everywhere in the game. You don't have time to allow your quarterback to get it right, especially if he's the number 1 overall pick, and especially if this is year 4 or 5 for him. But again, the Browns did win 26-24, and exactly what I thought would happen is what happened. Baker Mayfield was inconsistent. Bada bing, bada boom. That's just what happened. So, moving forward, this is the Panthers are a good team. The Panthers have talent. Christian McCaffrey finally looked healthy. This is a good team. It's just you never know what you're gonna get when you have Baker Mayfield. You don't know. And that is something. That's why I can't really dive deep and go all in when we talk about the Panthers at least making the playoffs, because you don't know. You do not know. So the Browns beat the Panthers 26-24. Oh, and Jacoby Brissett, bro. Ugh. Now, you're a backup for a reason. Let's say that. People are backups for a reason. People are backups because usually they're not good enough to be starters for long periods of time. Backups are really to just keep the ship afloat while the starter is out, or if they're up big, you just put the backup in. That's what the backup is. And I know that Jacoby Brissett is considered one of the best backups in the league. But time and time again, Jacoby Brissett shows you why he is a backup. Yo, he looked horrible. The whole Browns and Panthers game in general was not good. Like, Christian McCaffrey looked healthy, but he didn't really look good until the second half. I don't know. I mean, Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, they didn't do much. I know Kareem Hunt scored, but they didn't do much. Donovan Peoples-Jones did have a big catch, but none of these teams really looked good, and except for Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett did look good, and Jacoby Brissett just looked horrible, man. He looked timid. He looked like he was late on a lot of reads. He overthrew a lot of passes. He underthrew a lot of passes. He just didn't look good. And all I can think of when I was watching this is like, you know what? He is a backup. And this is a prime reason why he's a backup. Prime reason. So, but yeah, he did go out with a win. So they're 1-0, and bada bing, bada boom. Now you have the 49ers and Bears. The Bears beat the 49ers 19-10. Now, you don't, again, and I'm going to say this a lot, you don't want to overreact to week one. But a lot of question marks and a lot of concerns that the 49ers had, a lot of concerns that we as fans and I guess people in this media world had, we saw, and that is, so Trey Lance in the last 2-3 years has only started for 3 games. 3. And because of that, and shouts out to Shannon Sharp and a whole bunch of people that said this, he's not. It takes time. It takes reps to be on that NFL level and elite NFL level. Nobody's saying that Trey Lance is not a good or isn't an NFL talent. Nobody's saying that Trey Lance won't end up being one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He could. But the questions and the concerns that we had going into the game is what we saw. Now, if you're the 49ers and you're Trey Lance, you can chalk it up to, well, it was a monsoon. The field conditions weren't that good. It was raining. There was wind everywhere. It was puddles and puddles of rain on the field. It wasn't ideal to play football. Actually, let's say it wasn't the best conditions to play football. But then somebody can go, well, the Bears had the same thing. Justin Fields played on the same exact field and ultimately got the win. It was an ugly game all around, but you saw game one exactly why Jimmy G is still on this team. I'm a little conflicted too. Because on one hand, and I'm hearing a lot of people saying they don't think that Jimmy G, or they don't think that Trey Lance is going to end the season as a starting quarterback. I understand why. This is a great team. This is a team that, honestly, if you really look at the rosters, is one of, if not the best roster in the NFC. It's just the quarterback position. And when you have a coach like Kyle Shanahan, and when you have a team this good, you don't want to waste it. You don't want to waste it on trying to develop a quarterback, especially when, again, George Kittle, Deebo Samuels, Brandon Ayuk, you don't want to waste that. So I understand, and if Trey Lance doesn't get it together, and if Trey Lance still continues to struggle, I understand benching him. But then I also understand the thinking of, well, you have to let this play out. You can't stunt somebody's growth by putting them on the bench just for an immediate success, because honestly, we know what Jimmy G is, and we understand that if Jimmy G is your starting quarterback, he'll win you games, but will he win you the big games? And I understand he got you to the Super Bowl, and they were a throw away from pretty much sealing the deal and winning it. However, they were a throw away that Jimmy G did not make. And honestly, they didn't look good. Yes, they beat the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs at Green Bay in the snow below zero, but that was an ugly game, and you saw what happened against the 49ers. So all I'm saying is, I don't have the answers, Sway. I don't have the answers. I don't know what to do. I don't know if you should bench him or not. I think it depends on just how bad he looks or how good he looks. Because maybe you get to a point where you don't have to bench him. But if he looks terrible, then yeah, I would consider you don't want to waste this season. And this is all off 1 week. Let's just say that. This is all off 1 week. And we need to see moving forward what Trey Lance looks like. But I will say that this is a game that, even though the conditions weren't the best, this game against the Bears is a game that you should have won. The Bears are not a good team. I'll just be real with you. The Bears are not a good team. This is a game that you should have won. So you didn't. The Bears won 19-10. Moving forward, don't want to overreact, but the Steelers beat the Bengals 23-20. This was the absolute worst game of Joe Burrow's career, both college, I think, and NFL. He threw 4 interceptions, I think 5 total turnovers, maybe 5 interceptions. But I know the team had like 5 total turnovers, and I think he threw like 4 interceptions. And even with all that, they were able to push it, to send it to overtime. Jamar Chase got the game-tying touchdown, and of course the kick was missed or blocked. And then they missed the kick because they didn't get the laces right. They missed the kick in overtime, and then the Steelers ultimately won. Chris Boswell hit a game-winning field goal. Leaving this game, I feel better. I actually feel better about the Bengals than I did going into it. Because this is, and now I don't know if that's more of a referendum to the Steelers, or am I just being naive to the Bengals? Because the Steelers didn't look good at all towards the end of the game. I mean, Mitch Trubisky looked like the Mitch Trubisky that was in Chicago. It just wasn't a pretty game. Minkah Fitzpatrick was great. Like, he was great. And TJ Watt. Let's first, I hope. So TJ Watt, it looks like, TJ Watt has a torn pectoral muscle. And I think he's seeking a second opinion. It's either if he has surgery, it's going to be season ending. He may not have to have surgery, and I think he'll be out for at least 6 weeks. I don't know. I hope the best. I hope that I want everyone to be on the field or be playing in their respective sport. And losing TJ Watt is going, no matter period of time, it's going to be huge. I know it's this is an offensive league, but when you lose your best player, whether that's on the offense or defense, that is a huge blow to a team, especially a team that has a lot of questions at the quarterback position that the Steelers do. And there's not a lot to like about the Steelers offense when you talk about the quarterback, when you talk about the poor offensive line. Najee Harris got hurt, but he's supposed to be, I think the MRI was negative, so he should be good for game 2. But with the offensive line being how it is, it's hard for Najee Harris to get off. So your best unit and your best player need to be healthy. And Minkah Fitzpatrick was good, but losing TJ Watt is huge. Huge. That's like the Rams losing Aaron Donald. That's like the Browns losing Myles Garrett. It's incredibly huge. That is such a hole in your defense, which ultimately means there's a hole in your team. Now, I don't know what's going to happen. I after watching game 1, I am almost sure that probably by week 3 or 4, if Mr. Trubisky continues to play like he did week 1, we're going to see Kenny Pickett very soon. Now, yes, I understand he's 1-0, but special teams and defense won the game for the Steelers. I know Johnson had that incredible one-handed catch, but Mr. Trubisky overthrew somebody so bad one time, I thought he was throwing the ball away. In crunch time. And the offensive, he was, yeah. And one of the biggest reasons why I say I feel better about the Bengals than I did before going into the game is, again, this was the worst that Joe Burrow has ever played. The worst. He wasn't trusting his eyes. He was forcing passes. The offensive. I am a little concerned about the offensive line. Now, I know that the offensive line was the biggest problem last year, and they did a lot in the offseason to address that, getting top players, getting key players, and the offensive line looked exactly what it looked like last year. Now, again, week 1, I'm just going to chalk it up to week 1, but if that continues, then there's some major problems. But Joe Burrow, the offensive line looked horrible, and nothing really looked good for the Bengals until the fourth quarter, and they only lost by 3 points. And they lost because they had a blocked field goal, and they missed a field goal, or a block extra point, and they missed a field goal in overtime because it was a high snap, and the holder was the laces were facing the kicker, which you're not supposed to do. So even with all that, even Joe Burrow playing as bad as he played, they still only lost by 3 points. Now, I do think that, and no offense to the Steelers, but I do think that, you did play the worst team in the division. It's just going to get, I do want to see what happens next week when I think they play the Cowboys. But we'll talk about the Cowboys in a second. But yeah, I feel better about the Bengals now than I did going into the game. So even after a loss. The Eagles beat the Lions 38-35, and this game proved two things to me. This game proved that, the Eagles are for real. I was very, and I've been very vocal about this, very skeptical when we talk about Jalen Hurts and his passing ability. Not saying he can't pass the ball, but, I wanted to see what he looked like. You know what I'm saying? I didn't trust it. I got the playoffs in my head, and I remember what he looked like against the Bucs, and he didn't look good having to pass the ball. They got destroyed. So I was saying, I don't know how far this Eagle team is going to go because or if they have to depend on Jalen Hurts throwing the ball. One thing that I did not take into account. Now, I've said this, but I didn't really put merit to it, and that is having a number one receiver. Shouts out to 1,000 Jumpers podcast when they came on and we talked about the NFC East, and they made that a point that there is something to be said about having a number one receiver. I mean, you see what Josh Allen looks like with Stephon Diggs. You see Kyler Murray, what he looks like with and without DeAndre Hopkins. You see, hell, we'll talk about Green Bay in a second. You see what Aaron Rodgers looks like with with and without DeAndre Hopkins. Devontae Adams. Oh, you see what Matthew Stafford looks like with Cooper Kupp. This Eagles team is going to be good. I didn't really put a lot of stock into what Jalen Hurts was going to look like with AJ Brown. And boy, I know it was week 1 and I know it was against the Lions, but they looked incredible. Yeah, they only won by 3 points, but Darius Slay looked good. Miles Sanders looked good. Jalen Hurts looked good. The team as a whole looked good, looked great. The offensive line was great. The Eagles are going to be a tough out, especially in the NFC East and in the NFC in general. It is a loaded team. That's one thing that was kind of confirmed for me, because I did want to see what they look like week 1, especially with all the new pieces they got in, of course, with AJ Brown. And another thing that was kind of confirmed to me is this Lions team is going to be good. I'm not saying that they're going to, win the NFC. Win the NFC North. I'm not saying that at all. But this Lions team is good. This is a good roster. When we talk about the wide receiver position, DeAndre Swift, Sewell was playing. This is a good team. Aiden Hutchinson on the defense was good. This team is going to be in a lot of ball games. I don't know if they'll win them, but they're going to be in a lot of ball games because it's a good team and they play hard. I mean, Dan Campbell, I don't know how he be riling them up. I mean, we did see it on the little HBO show, but this is going to be a good team, and the Eagles are going to be good too. Like the Eagles, whew. The Colts and Texans ended in a tie, 2020. I'm starting to think it wasn't just Carson Wentz. I don't know, man. The Colts, it's like the Colts have one of the best rosters in the league. Yet you tie with one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the league, in the Texans. Texans don't like. I was, it was a bad. it was a bad day for the AFC East. I'll tell you that. No, AFC what? South. Well, tie game 2020. Matt Ryan didn't look. What did Matt Ryan do? Matt Ryan didn't look good at all. Nobody really looked good, honestly. Matt Ryan went for 352 yards and a touchdown. He threw the ball 50 times. Hold up. Jonathan Taylor had 31 carries. Jonathan Taylor had 31 carries for 161 yards. And they tied Michael Pittman, I'm sorry. Michael Pittman had 9 receptions for 121 yards. 1 touchdown and lost. Damn, Matt Ryan fumbled the ball 4 times. Damn. Yeah, man, I don't know. What did Miles do? Or Davis Mills, 240 yards, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, man, I don't know. I know it's week 1, but my faith in the Colts, that stock has taken a plunge since, The Patriots lost to the Dolphins 20-7. Shocker, the Patriots offense looked god awful. Like, they looked horrible. I think they ran like 11 plays. Or they had like 10 scripted plays and didn't get off that script the entire game. It was, I hope people understand now the importance of roles. Like there's a reason why people are offensive coordinators. There's a reason why people are defensive coordinators. There's a reason why people are head coaches. There's a reason why people are players. The Patriots were going into this saying, "Oh no, we'll do it by committee." Matt Patricia was a defensive coach. He'll be calling plays. Bill Belichick, will be calling plays. And the offense looked god awful. Like, looked so bad. And against a Dolphins team that didn't look good in and of itself. Shocker, Tua in the regular season is not the same Tua that we saw in training camp. He was underthrowing the hell out of Tyreek Hill. He was inaccurate a lot of times. There was one time where Tyreek Hill had to save the day because it was about to be an interception. Until the Patriots, the Patriots, it's going to be a long year for the Patriots if they continue to do this whole, we're going to call offense by committee. The Dolphins, yeah, you have Jalen Waddle. He scored a touchdown. Tyreek Hill was good. The Patriots, until they name an offensive coordinator and it's a good offensive coordinator, it's going to be like what we saw. That's just that. The Ravens beat the Jets 24-9. If I was Lamar Jackson, I wouldn't even get on the team bus after that. I'd be like, hey, or team train or whatever they did. Hey, you saw it. Lamar Jackson, 17 for 30, 213 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Now, the interception came in like garbage time. No. You see, the Ravens are still like, this is the time to get your money, bro. This is the time, and the Ravens are playing like I don't know. I just don't understand why you just don't pay the guy. People saying he'll have the most guaranteed money outside of Deshaun Watson. Look, if I'm better than Deshaun Watson in every statistical category, I'm better than Deshaun Watson. Why am I taking less than him? It's not my fault that the Browns were desperate, but why am I taking less than him? Or let's just say this: I'll take less because the Browns are stupid. But why would I not have anything? Why would I accept anything north of $200 million guaranteed? Now, we're hearing different numbers. We're hearing 133. We're hearing 180. We're hearing different numbers about guaranteed money. You know what we're not hearing? Lamar Jackson and the Ravens agreed to a contract extension. Lamar Jackson looked great on Sunday. And this is without Stanley, their best offensive lineman. Yeah, if I was Lamar, I just beat the Jets 24-9. Hey, you see what I do? Don't contact me until we got a deal done, or don't contact me until you're either gonna give me fully guaranteed or at least something close to that. I'll holler at you. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. The Commanders beat the Jaguars 28-22. I will say that it's a different experience having to root for Carson Wentz. As a fan of Washington, it's a different experience. the roller coaster ride, like you see it from afar, it's like, wow, that. But when he's like actually the quarterback of your team, it's a different level of experience. You have the highest of highs. Curtis Samuel looked great. He caught a touchdown. Jahan Dotson looked great. Caught a touchdown. Terry McLaurin looked great. Hell, Antonio Gibson, I don't think fumbled the ball. But, boy, this man, Carson Wentz, 313 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And those 2 interceptions could not have come at a worse time. I know Curtis Samuel fumbled the ball and lost it. I know the reason why we won is because Trevor Lawrence threw an interception at late in the game. But, you know, it's tough, bro. It's tough being a Washington fan, man. It's tough when your franchise is in the hands of Carson Wentz. Now, they can ultimately they won, so shouts out to Washington for being 1-0. But the defense struggled at the end of the game, like they tend to do. They usually start off strong and end very poorly. Yeah. I'm not. Now the Jags are better this year. Their defense is better. They spent a lot of money to improve this team, and they looked better. But Trevor Lawrence, man, you have to you can't throw an interception at that moment late in the game winning drive. You throw an interception, it's yeah. But boy, the Commanders, bro. Look, being like having to root for Carson Wentz will take some years off your life. I'll tell you that. The Giants beat the Titans. Exactly why I'm not high on the Titans. They should have beat the Giants. Daniel Jones looked the same old Daniel Jones. The reason why they won is because Saquon Barkley looks healthy. He is healthy. He looks good. He looked great. Saquon Barkley looked great. Sterling Shepard looked good. And the Titans just didn't. They didn't. Ryan Tannehill looked bad. Derrick Henry got hit with a hit stick of all hit sticks. That man went flying. But Derrick Henry did have 21 rushes for 82 yards. That's pretty much 4 yards a carry. Not ideal. Yeah. This game only confirmed to me that if Daniel Jones is your quarterback, boy, it's gonna be a long season. The Chiefs beat the Cardinals 44-21. Let's first get this out of the way. Patrick Mahomes is good. Patrick Mahomes is great, and losing your number one receiver forces you to do one of two things. You either have to spread the ball around or you get another number one receiver. And what we saw Patrick Mahomes do on Sunday was spread the ball around. He didn't discriminate. You still have your one person that you trust more than everybody, which is Travis Kelce. But hey, it was letting it fly, and boy, oh boy, I can, excuse me, if I can be a fly on the wall and be in the owner's box of the Arizona Cardinals, watching Kyle Murray look as bad as he looked after the whole, after the extension, signing him to all the money that they signed him to, the verbiage in the contract. I can imagine what he looked like. And I just want to be a fly on the wall in that room with that owner watching Kyler Murray look as bad as he did. Now, mind you, this is the second straight time he looked god awful. He looked awful in the playoffs against the Rams, and he looked awful against the Cardinals. Again, not having DeAndre Hopkins is huge for this offense. I don't think there really wasn't a receiver that was be able to create separation. In fact, it was bad. I mean, I know Kyler Murray, I think, had a rushing touchdown. I know James Conner had a touchdown. Yeah, bro. Oh no, he didn't. So Marquise Brown. That's another thing. I want to know how they feel with Marquise Brown, because Marquise Brown looked average as hell. 4 receptions, 43 yards, and a touchdown. And Zach Ertz had 2 receptions, 14 yards, and a touchdown. Like A.J. Green, 2 receptions, 13 yards. Benjamin, 3 receptions, 33 yards. Greg Dortch, 7 receptions, 63 yards. I could imagine. 1, 2, 3. 3 people fumbled the ball. Yeah, man, this Arizona team's not going to be that good. Like, they'll be okay because Kyler Murray, I think, is better than what we saw on Sunday. But it's going to be a long year for them. I'll be real with you. Probably one of the more anticipated games of Sunday was the Chargers and the Raiders. The Chargers beat the Raiders 24-19. I needed to see. I mean, all we've been talking about with the Chargers on paper, and I wanted to see what they look like in an actual game. And boy, oh boy, even without Justin or J.C. Jackson, they looked great. Khalil Mack looked young and healthy and refreshed. The defense looked great. Justin Herbert was slicing and dicing. Keenan Allen did go out, and I think that he's not going to play on Thursday Night Football, so that's going to be big. But Carter looked good. Carter from Washington. Why is it that when everyone leaves Washington, they just get exponentially better? But DeAndre Carter looked good. Austin Eckler had some big runs. The Chargers looked good. And that's J.C. Jackson didn't even play. And the Raiders, the same problems that plagued the Raiders last year is the same problems that we saw week 1. Offensive line is horrible. Derek Carr has to force a lot of things because he doesn't have that much time. Now, yes, the connection between Derek Carr and Devontae Adams looked like it's been years. Like, I understand they played in college, but they look like they've been throwing the ball to each other for years. That's just Devontae Adams was going crazy. But outside of that, Darren Waller was big too. But the defense was giving up play after play, big play after big play. And if they were getting a stop, it was negated by a flag. So the same issues that we saw last year from the Raiders is what we saw week 1. So which it's not really an overreaction. It's just the questions that we had are still there. And I am going to go out on a limb after watching what I watched. The Raiders, because of everything that we just talked about, might be the worst team in their division. That offensive, well, we'll talk about the Broncos in a second, but yeah. I think the Chargers are one of the best teams in the league. Like, I would put them top 5 right now. That's how good they looked. And that's even without some of the, at least a main piece on the defense. And losing Keelan Allen majority of the game. So, the Vikings beat the Packers 23-7. Let me first give my props to the Vikings. Justin Jefferson might be the best receiver in the league, at least by the end of this year. Now, I was one of the people that I would religiously put Jamar Chase over Justin Jefferson. I just thought he was bigger. He was stronger. I was wrong. Justin Jefferson was going crazy against this Packers defense. This Packers defense, by the way, that a lot of people think possibly could be the best defense in the league. They were going crazy. Now, there was extra motivation for the Vikings, of course, it's a divisional game. Za'Darius Smith, the relationship they have there with Green Bay. But Justin Jefferson, boy, oh boy. I think somebody said it on the broadcast, was Justin Jefferson is who we thought Odell Beckham was going to be. Now, I think that is definitely a shot at Odell Beckham Jr., but Odell Beckham Jr. didn't turn into that due to injury, I like to think, and because of who your quarterback was. I mean, yeah, Eli was just at the end of his career. But Justin Jefferson, man, there's not a lot I can say bad about him. There's really not anything I can say bad. He is arguably by the end of this year, I think if he continues on the trajectory that he was, of course, week 1 and how he's been doing, he could be in the conversation for the best wide receiver in the league. And that is over Devontae Adams. That's over Cooper Kupp. That's over Tyreek Hill. That's over a lot of anybody. Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs. I think Justin Jefferson could arguably be the best wide receiver in the league. And this Vikings team is good. I talked about this with the couch coach when he came on the podcast. The Vikings could possibly win this division. And I wouldn't be surprised if they won this division. That's how good this team is. The defense looked a lot better. New coach, he looked good. Kirk Cousins looked good. Justin Jefferson looked so good, you forgot that Adam Thielen was a number 2. And you forgot that, Dalvin Cook is still in the running back for this team. This team is going to be good. And for the Packers. Now, last year, they got destroyed the first game. They played in Jacksonville. No, they played Jacksonville, but they played somewhere else because of hurricanes and stuff. Or they played in Jacksonville. They played the Saints in Jacksonville. They didn't play in New Orleans because of like hurricanes and stuff. I do think that it's going to take time. The Aaron Rodgers is notorious for having short leashes when it comes to new wide receivers, and you have a completely new wide receiver core outside of what's that man's name? Outside of forgot that man's name. Oh, side note. Last week I was talking about Seattle, and it was definitely Golden Tate. Shouts out to my man's, I think his name Michael. That commented on the YouTube channel. Yes, is definitely Golden Tate. So I appreciate you. But yeah, getting back. Aaron Rodgers, man. It wasn't just Aaron Rodgers. It wasn't just the defense was getting torched. That was kind of more shocking to me than the offense struggling. The defense, Justin Jefferson made Zaire Alexander look like a pedestrian. And this is arguably one of the best defenders in the league. And Justin Jefferson made that man look like, man. I think the Packers are going to be better. They are. Robert Tonyan, they were out there 2 Pro Bowl linemen. I think Aaron Rodgers got sacked like 7 times or something like that. Wasn't ideal. But let's not slip on the Vikings. So Sunday Night Football, you had the Broncos and Cowboys. Buccaneers. I'm sorry, Buccaneers and Cowboys. The Buccaneers won 19-3. Dak Prescott, I think, hurt his hand. He hurt his thumb. He'll be out. Now, they were originally saying like 10 weeks. Now I'm hearing say maybe 4 or 5, maybe 3. I don't know. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter to me because what we saw on Sunday was one of the biggest reasons why I said that the Cowboys are going to struggle mightily this year. Even with Cooper Rush, even with Dak Prescott. Let's get this out now. CeeDee Lamb is a number 1 receiver. CeeDee Lamb is good enough to be a number 1 receiver. Now, I know that it's almost insane to say when the man recorded, give me a second, he had, I think he had like 11 targets. I think he had like 2 catches, even though he had like 11 targets. CeeDee Lamb is a number 1 receiver. The problem is, and I think you're going to see this a lot with what team? You're going to see this a lot with Seattle. DK Metcalf is a number 1 receiver. The problem is when your number 2, 3, and 4 are horrible. Noah Brown, who is just another person, is your second until Michael Gallup comes back. Is your second option at the receiver core. And honestly, how good really is Michael Gallup? Especially coming off an ACL. When you have a good number 1, which CeeDee Lamb is, but you do not have a good 2, 3, and 4, the defense doesn't have to worry about them. They're just going to focus on you, which they did. Now, yes, there were a couple balls that he should have caught. But CeeDee Lamb was getting double and triple teamed the entire night. And still, the Cowboys couldn't do nothing with it. Ezekiel Elliott looked good till he didn't. Tony Pollard. I wondered why Tony Pollard didn't play as much as Zeke. I see now because he can't block to save his life. And it's not the fact that he can't block because he's like small. He doesn't even know like blocking assignments. All season we were talking about Jerry Jones and we were saying why he's not improving this team. Why it felt like the team was getting worse when we talk about the offensive line, which, by the way, I think an offensive lineman got hurt in the game as well. You weren't improving the offensive line. You weren't improving the receiver core. I mean, Julio Jones was out there. Clearly, Devontae Adams was out there. You did nothing. You lose Amari Cooper. Not lose. You trade away Amari Cooper for nothing. This Cowboys team is not good. The defense didn't look good. Now, yeah, you're going against the Bucs and Tom Brady, but they didn't look good either, really. The only unit that looked really good was the defense. And Julio Jones I'm not going to say he's back to Julio Jones, but he looks 10 times better than he looked in Tennessee. So all I'm saying is, man, it's going to be a long season for the Cowboys, man. If they don't turn it around and quickly, it's going to be a long season. Now, to me, that's not an overreaction because this is what people have been saying this whole offseason. Every time you saw a move that the Cowboys did or did not make, we were like, hey, why don't you go get Bobby Wagner? Why don't you go get Von Miller? Why don't you go get a Julio Jones? Why don't you go get Devontae Adams? Why don't you try to go get Tyreek Hill? They didn't make any move. Why don't you try to go get Valdez-Scantling? Why don't you try to go get Juju Smith-Schuster? Hell, somebody better than Noah Brown. It's going to be a long season for the Cowboys, man. And I'm not just saying that as a Commanders fan. It's going to be a long season for the Commanders, too. But I hope Dak Prescott gets back. I think that it's going to be a longer season if Dak Prescott is not your quarterback. And Dak Prescott didn't have the best game either, even when he was healthy. It just wasn't a good game for the Cowboys, but it's going to be a long season. And Monday Night Football, the Seattle Seahawks stunned the Broncos and beat them 17-16. Let's get a couple things out the way. No, I don't think that they should have booed Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is the best quarterback they've ever had, period, in their franchise. I also don't think I was completely shocked by the ending of I was shocked about the game in total. I thought the Broncos were going to destroy the Seattle Seahawks. Now, I will say this. Seattle Seahawks and Geno Smith played a lot better than I thought they would. A lot better. The defense played a lot better, at least in the first half. The offense played a lot better. I hope Jamal Adams gets healthy or gets right. It looks like he's going to be out for a good minute. Which, by the way, Jamal Adams, since he signed that contract, has just been injury upon injury upon injury. But I still hope that he's okay. Because they're talking about a serious knee injury, so he's going to miss some good amount of time. I just hope it's not the whole season. So let's talk about it. You paid Russell Wilson $235 million. You pay someone that much money, one, because they're good. Two, because you expect them to rise up and be great in big situations, big moments. Moments that not a lot of people are able to be great at. Only a select few can. Like those moments where you see 10 sec or you see a minute on the clock and Aaron Rodgers has the ball and you think to yourself, damn, I gave him a lot of time. Or Tom Brady's rushing down the field and he has 30 seconds. You said, that's a lot of time. Or now Patrick Mahomes has 13 seconds and you think to yourself, that's a lot of time. Russell Wilson is in that caliber. Russell Wilson, I think, has like the fourth most game-winning drives in NFL history. So, Nathaniel Hackett. I understand Russell Wilson and the team didn't play the best the entire game. For some reason, they were throwing a lot of bootlegs. They were throwing a lot of passes in the flats. I just don't understand why you didn't. When you have Judy, when you have Cortland Sutton, who is huge, pause. I didn't know how big this man is, pause. But I just don't understand why you just weren't letting it loose. Now, yeah, there was a couple underthrown balls. I just think that, Russell Wilson didn't have his best game, but you have a minute left. Let's say that, and you completely mismanaged the clock at the end of the game. You let it go from a minute to 20 seconds and ran one play. A minute and 20, and you had 3 timeouts, by the way. But Nathaniel Hackett, I understand that I'm starting to see what happened in Green Bay against the against the Bucks in the playoffs. I'm starting to see. Nathaniel Hackett, you have Russell Wilson, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Jamal Williams, Melvin Gordon. You're 4th and 5, damn near in the middle of the field. And you have Russell Wilson as your quarterback. In what world do you think? Now, yes, I understand that you got to the 1 yard line twice, and Williams fumbled once, and Melvin Gordon fumbled again. Melvin Gordon, death, taxes, and Melvin Gordon fumbling at the 1 yard line. It's bound to happen, but it happened twice. In no circumstance do you ever have a healthy $230+ million quarterback on your sideline. It's 4th and 5, 20 seconds left. You're in the middle of the field pretty much. In no way, shape, or form should I see, or should the world see, a damn kicker trotting himself out 4th and 5 to kick a 64-yard field goal when you have a $230+ million quarterback on the sideline. You have 3 timeouts. You have Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton. You have pieces, and you put the game in the kicker's hands. Then had the nerve to start calling timeouts with like 10 seconds left. That's probably one of the worst endings to a game I've seen. Confusing endings I've seen to a game in a good minute. Whew. Again, I understand Russell Wilson didn't have the best game, but he wasn't god awful. Like Russell Wilson, let's read his stats for a second. Russell Wilson, 29 for 42, 340 yards, and a touchdown. Javonte, I'm sorry, not Jamal. Javonte Williams. I just don't understand it, man. Like, think about that. Jerry Jeudy had 7 targets, which is low. 4 receptions, 102 yards, touchdown. Cortland Sutton, 4 receptions, 72 yards. Javonte Williams, 11 receptions, because you kept doing bootlegs, 65 yards. Melvin Gordon, 2 receptions for 14 yards. Andrew Beck, I think they're tight end. Or it might not be the tight. I don't know. But he threw 2 receptions, 52 yards. You have a Maserati, bro. You can't drive it like a Honda. Let Russ loose, bro. Let some of these wide receivers loose. And for the love of God, if you need to win a game, and you have Russell Wilson on your sideline, and you just signed Russell Wilson, in no way, shape, or form should you take that man off the field with 20 seconds left, 4th and 5. That's the thing. You could. So here's the thing. You had 3 timeouts left. If he doesn't make it, that is what it is. Or if he doesn't convert, it is what it is. But I'd rather trust that than a 64-yard kick, which would be tied for the second longest kick in NFL history, or the longest kick in NFL history, I think. And if he did get it, it's a closer kick. I don't know, man. I know I ain't never played no football like professionally. I know I played 1 year into like Pop Warner, but I don't know, man. Let's move forward. College football on Saturday, man. First of all, shouts out Bryce Young. Every year, a quarterback in college or a player usually has what we consider a Heisman moment, a moment that won them the Heisman. Now, it's a long college season. I think there's like 12, 15 or 12, 13 games. But Bryce Young may have possibly had his Heisman moment this year. Texas going back and forth for Alabama. Texas, who's unranked, was at home. Alabama, who's ranked number 1. Texas going back and forth. Texas takes the lead with like a minute and a half left. And Bryce Young, the defender was barreling down on this man. And somehow he ducked and dodged and ran for the first down. Getting Alabama in field goal position. Alabama hit the field goal. They won. Alabama won 20-19. Bryce Young showed us why he is a Heisman Trophy winner and possibly a 2-time. This was his Heisman moment. I'm not saying he's going to win it. I'm just saying this solidified a lot. So, but outside of that, man. Oh, so yeah, that was a good game. That was a great game. Unfortunately, Quinn Ewers. That's it. Quinn Ewers, who was a quarterback for Texas, was out like the first quarter with a shoulder injury. Looked out. Apparently, he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. I do think if he would, because he was late, like wheeling and dealing. I think if he would have played, but if he would have continued to play the entire game, I think Texas would have won. That's just me. I mean, you have a backup quarterback at this point, almost about to beat Alabama. Imagine if Quinn was still playing. I do hope that he gets healthy soon. There's no moral victories, and I don't really believe in moral victories. But I do think that it was Texas. This is one of those games that's incredibly hyped, and then Texas just goes out and gets destroyed. The fact that they were going toe-to-toe with Alabama, I think it was a good. I mean, I'm not going to say good loss, but it definitely, you feel good after that loss that, hey, we're right there. We're right there. Even when we're unranked, we're right there. So outside of that, man, Georgia handled business against Samford. I mean, Ohio State beat Arkansas State. Hawaii should have never left the state of Hawaii because they just got destroyed 56-10. Clemson. Texas A&M lost to Appalachian State in like a whole bunch of overtimes. No, it wasn't. But they still, like, Texas A&M, Jimbo Fisher, bro. Fraudulent. Texas A&M losing to Appalachian State. Now we're here. Marshall beat number 8 Notre Dame, 26-21. Marcus Freeman, head coach of Notre Dame. Look, Notre Dame's not really used to, or not really. They usually don't fire coaches like mid-season. And I'm not saying that he deserves to be fired. But what I will say is Notre Dame losing to Marshall, unranked Marshall at that, and losing to Ohio State. And that Marcus Freeman is on a 3-game losing streak because he was the coach for Notre Dame in the bowl game that they lost in these 2 games. They're 0-2 currently. 0-1 at home. Let me see Notre Dame's schedule. Let me tell you something. Notre Dame has the hottest seat of all time. Or Marcus Freeman has the hottest seat of all time right now. And what's even worse is it don't get no easier. You got Cal, you should win. North Carolina, and I will say should because I thought that these were going to be wins. I thought that the only question that I really had was Clemson and USC. But after losing to Marshall, Cal could be a loss. North Carolina could be a loss. BYU just beat Baylor. So Stanford, if you can't beat Stanford, I don't know. UNFV, that's a basketball school. Syracuse, that's a basketball school. Clemson, Navy, they're out here fighting for the country. Boston College, they ain't been good since, what was that, Matt Ryan? And then USC, you're going to lose that game. Boys, that means, let's just say they lose to North Carolina. They lose to BYU. They lose to Clemson. They lose to USC. They would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They'd be 8-4. A team that came in at fifth. They were ranked 5th, and they're gonna go 8-4. That's a tough one. That's a tough pill to swallow there. Look, man, I don't wish firing upon anybody. I hope that, especially another black guy, but Notre Dame. That's like Notre Dame. you losing to Marshall and you're at Notre Dame. Yeah, man. I'm gonna pray for you, bro. I'm gonna pray for you, my brother. I'm gonna pray for you. Move forward. Speaking of firing, Scott Frost was fired from Nebraska on his day off. Not funny. He was fired from Nebraska after 5+ seasons. His record was 16-31. I'm actually very surprised at the firing. I'm very surprised at the firing because Cuz should have been fired a long time ago. I don't know what did it this time. Cuz whether it was questionable play calls, whether it was horrible clock management, poor recruiting class, losses against people that you shouldn't lose to. Scott Frost should have been gone from Nebraska. But somehow he was able to survive 5+ seasons. I don't really have much to, talk about. We can move forward, but it is what it is. Should have been gone. So, Scott Frost. Let's move forward. Robert Sarver, I don't know if you guys remember, but in the offseason or a couple months ago, there was a report coming out that Robert Sarver, who was the majority owner of the Phoenix Suns and Phoenix Mercury, was coming out that there was a lot of workplace misconduct when it came to women, when it came to people of race or people of color. The work environment in that Robert Sarver was over wasn't the best. And a lot of people were thinking that he was going to be forced to sell his team, forced out. But no, he got suspended 1 year and fined $10 million. For the life of me, I was wondering what's the difference between Robert Sarver and Donald Sterling. And then I remembered the videotape or the audio. Now, yes, there was a whole articles based off Robert Sarver, but there wasn't audio. Donald Sterling, there was audio. Robert Sarver is a millionaire. Million upon millionaire. Like millions upon millions. You own 2 teams. 2 of which, by the way, are very successful teams. At least of recently. The Phoenix Mercury, you have Deanna Taurasi. You have Skylar Diggins. Hopefully get Brittany Griner home soon. Phoenix Suns, they just went to the finals 2 years ago. You have Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, just signed him to his max extension. Chris Paul. I'm saying all this to say this $10 million fine in 1 year ain't nothing. And this actually really shows you it ain't just the NFL that has problems with relating to women. People don't care. Look, these leagues don't care about women, bro. If that's the case, most of the workplace misconduct was against women and people of color. And you're only suspending this man a year and fined $10 million? It's not just the NFL, people. Now, I'm not saying, don't hold the NFL accountable, but it's sports in general. Because now, again, you're hearing people say, "What's the difference between him and Donald Sterling?" Because honestly, this is worse than Donald Sterling. Is just that videotape or that audio tape was crazy from Donald Sterling. But some of the things that Robert Sarver was accused of, I'm not gonna say. I will say this is worse than Donald Sterling, and Donald Sterling was bad. And for that to just get a 1 year and $10 million fine from a millionaire, by the way, like a multi-millionaire, like in the double or triple digit millionaire. Yeah. Moving forward. The NBA is in talks about having an in-season tournament. I think it's the dumbest thing of all time. Now, I do think that, I know the WNBA does it, but that doesn't take I don't like when I know they call it the Commissioner Cup. I don't like it when the WNBA does it. Look, just play the regular season, have a regular season, have a playoffs. That's it. Yeah, I like the play-in tournament. I like that. It brings a sense of urgency to teams, especially, it kind of combats, for some teams, it kind of combats tanking, kind of combats sitting out games for stars. I get that. I like the play-in tournament, but to have a regular season, a tournament, an in-season tournament, then a play-in tournament, then it's a lot. I don't like for the women, for the WNBA to do it either. It's just play the season, play the play-in tournament, keep it moving. For instance, another reason. Why the hell does this is just grievance day, I guess. Why the hell does the WNBA in the playoffs don't have a 7-game series? What the hell is this best out of 3 than best out of 5? Now, I knew that this was a thing, but I still don't understand. Yo, the NBA, bro, please do not do this in season tournament. It's no. WNBA, I get the Commissioner's Cup, but no. It's just, to me, it's gimmicky. It's gimmicky to me. Unless you make more money, unless they make more money by winning this tournament or whatever, then okay. If there's money involved, saying, hey, if the Golden State Warriors win the in-season tournament, they all make, I don't know, 100 more or $1 million more. Okay. But if not, it is for playoff seeding? If that's for playoff seeding, then what's the point of the play-in tournament? Yeah, man. I don't like it. And lastly, before we go, I just want to say shouts out to Nate Diaz for winning his final UFC match by submission over Tony Ferguson. I think Tony Ferguson's lost like 6 straight, by the way. But Nate Diaz, one of the most how do I say this? One of the most verbally opinionated people when it comes to the UFC. This was out of his, he was final fighting his contract. He said he's going to move forward and do some do something else. But yeah, shouts out to Nate Diaz for going out on his own terms and winning his last game. So shouts out to you, man. And there you have it. That's been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I appreciate you guys. If you want an Unpopular Podcast shirt, hoodie, sweater, long sleeve joggers, the link is in the description below. I have multiple different colors, multiple different designs. Go get your Unpopular Podcast merch today. Also, please subscribe to if you're listening. Please subscribe to if you're watching. It definitely means a lot to me. Hey, my Apple Podcast, that's up and running. I don't know why it wasn't for like a week and a half, but all the episodes are still, back on Apple Podcasts. So shout out to them. And until next time, much love.